Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Eastbrook, the home of the Eagle. As I look out in the audience, a lot of Paramus residents here, to include myself, this is our alma mater. Our county executive, our police chief, all of which graduated from this great school. Today, it's my privilege, again, to welcome the Governor Murphy, to the great town of Paramus. This is not my first time. Governor Murphy has not only been a very good friend of mine, but a very good friend of Paramus. And he's been here for us in good times and in bad, and I want to thank him for all that he's done, not just for Paramus, but for the great state of New Jersey. Today, he's here with a great message. And we again welcome him here to Eastbrook, the home of the Eagle, and Paramus, the retail capital of the universe. Without any further ado, let me introduce our governor, your governor, Governor Murphy.
Family is good? How was the wedding? Okay. Thank you, Rich. It's good to be back here. I'll come to that in a moment. But I want to give Rich a shout out because he's been an extraordinary leader in this community. And Rich, your leadership has taken Paramus through lots of challenges, and you've emerged stronger and higher each and every time, and your service has been extraordinary, and same for your wife and your three boys as well. So thank you let's hear it for the mayor. We have a cavalcade of important people here today, and I'm gonna introduce a good chunk of them. If I don't introduce you, please do not be mad at me. I just told Melissa Caminetti that I would give her a shout out as the president of the Board of Education, and you have your colleagues here today. To you and your colleagues, bless you and thank you for everything. Principal here of Eastbrook is Ryan Opperly. Ryan, thank you so much for everything you do. Let me be very serious because I think you were vice principal when I was last year, which was on the darkest day in the school's history, May 17th, 2018, when we lost two precious lives of an educator and a precious little girl, Miranda Vargas, and the teacher was Jennifer Williamson. Dozens were hurt. Jim, you were right there in the command post. My wife and I were here. Many of us were here. And it is my first time back inside this building since that day. God rest and God bless over the souls that were lost and injured and lives impacted. But boy, I'll tell you, Eastbrook and the Eagles have stayed strong and have showed incredible character. And so let's keep all of those who we lost and who were injured and their families in our prayers forever. It's also a great pleasure to be here with the Acting Attorney General, Matt Platkin. Matt, it's great to have you. You're in the second row, which is unusual. I'm not sure whether or not you offended someone here at Eastbrook. You're sitting beside the great Superintendent of the State Police, Pat Callahan. Thank you, Colonel. To your other side is the Acting Commissioner of Education, Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan. We have Congressman Josh Gottheimer. More about Josh and congestion pricing when I introduce him. Paramus' own Senator Joe Lagana. Joe, great to have you here with us. County Executive does an extraordinary job. Former mayor of this great community, Jim Tedesco. Jim, great to have you with us. I think, Lori, I forgot you. I don't know where you were in here, but we've got... You blend in. I don't know where you fell. It's Lori and I worked overseas when I was an ambassador, and she worked for another branch of government, and we'll leave it at that. Any event, the director of the Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness, Lori Duran, is with us. In addition to Jim, we have Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, Tracy Zurer. I don't think Tommy is here yet, but we also have members, Commissioners Mary Amoroso and Jermaine Ortiz. Councilwoman Maria Elena Bellinger, dear friend, is here somewhere. Maria, nice to see you. Superintendent Adams and his team, other elected officials, educators, administrators, and quite importantly for the purposes of today's discussion, many members of law enforcement, both at the local and county, and clearly in Pat's case at the state level. So over the next week, New Jersey's roughly 1.4 million public school students, along with the many tens of thousands of educators, educational support staff, and administrators, will begin the new academic year at schools just like Eastbrook Middle School. It will be a year of exploration and achievement. Moreover, we hope it is a year that is safe for everyone who enters our schools. Ensuring school safety is among my, and I think our collective, most sacred obligations, in my case as governor, and an obligation shared by every official, elected or otherwise, with us today. An important part of school safety is ensuring that first responders have the tools they need to answer any emergency of any size and at any time. When every second matters, the first and perhaps most important tool is the ability to know without delay not just where an emergency is in a building, but also the fastest and safest route to get there. So that is why today I am proud to announce that we are taking a big step toward that goal. In 2019, under the leadership of Pat Callahan and Lori's predecessor, Jared Maples, the New Jersey State Police and the Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness began an effort to build, and I'm quoting here because I'm going to come back to what this acronym is. Former Chief of Staff Pete Camerano's in the house. Nice to see you, Pete. Collaborative response graphics for every public school across our state and in addition to county and local government buildings. Collaborative response graphics, or what they're known by as CRGs, are accurate renderings of buildings clearly showing interior and exterior layouts, including rooms and hallways, and delineating all entryways and exits. They can be compatible with existing software platforms and can be easily accessed and understood. This technology, by the way, was first developed by the U.S. military, but is now an important tool to support public safety. These electronically accessible renderings can provide a much faster means for pinpointing locations and emergency routes than any traditional building schematic which may currently be in use. The reality is that a multi-sheet set of blueprints created to guide construction, in so many cases, and so large that they need to be rolled and unrolled, likely aren't the best tool to guide first responders in a life and death situation. And in the year 2022, that kind of delay is both unnecessary and intolerable. So since 2019, roughly half of New Jersey's school buildings have been rendered into CRGs. By the way, we have about between 3,000, Angelica, and 3,100 buildings in all, and I think 1,500 plus or minus have this right now. And that provides a common operating picture for local law enforcement, fire personnel, give them a shout out as well, EMTs a shout out, and other first responders, giving them a critical leg up in any crisis response. But that still means, as I said, there's about 1,500 buildings that remain unmapped. And as we enter this new school year, this is a gap we cannot allow to continue. So today, we are announcing our plan to invest $6.5 million in remaining American Rescue Plan funds, and thank you, Josh, and your colleagues for lassoing that money in Washington, to complete this job, to fill out the entirety of the balance of our buildings. My guess is that timeline, to preempt a question from our friends in the press, my guess is that a year from now, as we begin the 23-24 school year, is a reasonable time frame to have this completely rolled out. Now, among other key aspects for this statewide school mapping project, an annual, and this will be required, an annual walkthrough of both buildings and grounds to ensure accuracy in both floor plans and the immediate surroundings. Secondly, site-specific interior labeling to ensure proper and swift identification of individual rooms, hallways, stairwells, potential hazards, and the locations of key utilities. And thirdly, clear labeling of external doors, parking areas, athletic fields, and surrounding roads and neighboring properties so responders will be able to know where they are and where to go the moment they arrive on site. We can't just hope that a police officer or a firefighter or an emergency medical professional rushing into a school knows where they're going. Our first responders are tremendous members of their communities, but many didn't go to the schools where they may be called to respond or even have children of their own in those schools. They don't inherently know these buildings. And while, on the other hand, there are a lot of first responders who do work in communities in which they grew up and went to school, even then, memories can be fuzzy. Subsequent renovations or expansions may have altered what one thought they knew about a building's layout, or they may be entering a newer building or a newer wing that they've never even set foot in as a student. So this is a critical investment in public safety and the capabilities of our first responders and in the safety of everyone who, starting next week, will be spending a significant portion of their days in our schools. It is an investment that could not be any more timely, and it is an investment in our first responders and in our communities that I am proud to make. And as I cede the stage to Josh, think of this as a hard asset companion to a law that I signed on August 1st of this year, which was to require each school district to come up with so-called threat assessment teams, members of law enforcement, psychiatrists, educators. They're looking at the human capital in a school environment and trying to figure out where there may be challenges. This law is to harden the hard assets of our school environments, and hopefully taken together, that is a powerful companionship that will bear fruit in the years to come. I mentioned kiddingly congestion pricing, and where Josh is a fierce advocate on behalf of New Jersey's interests. And I know that he will be our leading voice and a great partner in any efforts we make to make sure that New Jersey, if this were ever to come to pass, it's at the right time and that New Jersey commuters are never double taxed. But I could say stuff about Josh in a whole range of other arenas. He's an incredibly fierce defender of the interests of the residents of his district and in the interests of the residents of this state. Please help me welcome Congressman Josh Godhard.
I'll take fierce advocate. That's fine. That's the nicest thing you've said about me. Thank you very much, Governor. Thank you for your leadership, especially today in this critical topic. I want to thank Senator Lagana for leading the way on this as well. Excellent work. Thank you for all you do for us every day. We're very lucky to be here in one of the greatest retail zip codes in America, as the mayor always says, and the home of the Eagles. So thank you, Principal, for having us. And Jimmy, thank you for your leadership, not just in this town, but across our county, always for so many years, for always running into burning buildings to get our backs, literally and figuratively. So thank you so much, as well as Lori, thank you for all you do at Homeland, and of course our great commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Zur, Amoroso. I don't remember the other one's name. Commissioner Ortiz, thank you so much for all you do. You're terrific. Chief Ehrenberg, thank you so much, as well as everyone from the Sheriff's Department. And Colonel, thank you for your leadership as well. We've got, as the Governor said, an all-star team here. I just want to really begin by thanking our brave first responders for everything they do to keep our schools, our communities, and our country safe. Our brave law enforcement literally put their lives on the line every day, protect our children and families, and take on the toughest, most urgent challenges facing our communities, from violent crime to terrorist attacks. And I just want to say thank you to them. And of course, we're in a school, and the school wouldn't happen without our educators, our administrators, our education support professionals. I want to thank them for everything they do. As the son of a school teacher, and how important public education is to our families and our communities. And I just want you to know how grateful we are. And unfortunately, for how often you have to put yourselves in harm's way or respond to a very dangerous situation. So I'm very grateful to you and all you did during the pandemic, but beyond, and for never letting our kids down. I couldn't be more pleased that we're here together in the best congressional district in the state and the country to announce a new $6.5 million federal investment that we've clawed back to New Jersey from Washington to better protect our schools and our children. The unfortunate reality is this: since 2018, from Parkland to Uvalde to, unfortunately, far too many schools around our country, there have been 119 shootings in K-12 schools, resulting in a death or injury. That's just since 2018 alone. Scores of children and teachers have died. It's a clear danger, and we saw that with the tragedy in Texas. Every second in these situations count. Literally every second, as the Governor stressed how important it is to know how to get in and out of a building. The pressure points, the doors, the vent shafts, and such can be the real difference between life and death. This new school security investment will ensure that law enforcement has immediately accessible digital blueprints of every school building in the state. God forbid there's an active shooter situation or other attack. Governor, thank you for your innovation here with Joe. This technology will help law enforcement act quickly and decisively. And the new investment was made possible, as Governor said, by the Federal American Rescue Plan that Congress passed last year. I was very proud to be part of getting that done. It's hard to think of a better use of these federal resources than to ensure we're protecting our schools, our educators, and children by giving law enforcement the resources they need to keep them safe. And again, this is where we should be utilizing these resources in Jersey, right? To protect our children in places that parents should just always consider safe. In addition to this great initiative, we must also continue to fight for and pass common sense, bipartisan gun and school safety legislation, like what we got passed and signed into law in June. I was very proud to have helped get that done in a bipartisan way, working together in the House and the Senate, putting our country over party, coming together to get an agreement that will actually save countless lives. There's still more progress to be made, but after decades of inaction, this was real, meaningful, and strong legislation in the right direction. And it builds on the common sense gun safety laws we have here in New Jersey, like Alyssa's law, named after Alyssa Al-Hadef, who was from North Jersey. Unfortunately, she lost her life in that tragedy in Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. This law requires that all Jersey public schools install silent panic alarms. We should be doing the same thing federally. I've got bipartisan legislation to do that, to make sure that every school is equipped like we are in New Jersey. We also need to make sure we're doing everything we can to get more resources back from Washington for our first responders, all of them, for our cops, our firefighters, the EMTs. I'm very proud that in the 5th District, we're up 357% in what we've clawed back to Jersey since 2016, to this district, including in 2020 alone, thank you, Governor, including what we're announcing today. In 2021 alone, we clawed back more than $750 for every single North Jersey household. Dollars going back into the pockets of our hardworking families who need it most, making our streets safer, getting lead and forever chemicals out of the drinking water, wiring our families with broadband, better handling storms, all the kind of stuff we should be fighting from the moocher states for us, to protect our families, helping our firefighters put out a blaze, helping law enforcement protect us from terror and crime, resources to help our parochial schools, churches, temples, and mosques, all clawing back to Jersey. And today just adds to that. And it's a save on every property tax line in every town in our district to make sure we get property tax relief to our families. So just finishing up again, thank you so much for having us here today. We should do whatever we can to provide more investment to law enforcement, making sure that we fund, not defund law enforcement, and get that done, the training they need, make sure they have the resources, that you have what you need to protect us and protect yourselves. I just want to thank you again for all you do. I want to thank our educators here in the greatest country in the world. If we work together and stop congestion tax, our best days will always be ahead of us. Thank you so much. God bless.
Josh, thank you. A serious point. Alyssa's law, which is named after a Jersey gal who had moved to Parkland and who was killed and murdered, is a law that I think you would agree with me, would all agree that we wear as a badge of honor in the context of an awful tragedy. Her parents, and you know them well and you work with them, not only are trying to get this done on the federal level, we're helping them go through various other states until we can get it done at the federal level, most recently New York. And bless that precious little, I think, 14-year-old gal. I'm going to be, the educators will know this better than any of us. We need more of you. Healthcare professionals and educators are the two big shortages right now in the country. Probably law enforcement would be on that list as well. I'm going to be in the White House tomorrow in my capacity as chair of the National Governors Association for the sole purpose of brainstorming on how to get more teachers into the pipeline. Angelica, that's something that I know you're passionate about. And on a very nice lighter note, how about the incredible art from the members of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade here? I didn't give this enough homage because I was looking this way, and then I sat down and really, really impressive. This is an incredibly impressive school, and the superintendent knows the whole district is one of our best. He was a co-sponsor on that legislation. I mentioned the threat assessment teams. He was there on that dark day 4.5 years ago here at Eastbrook. He's an outstanding legislator. over the past several years as a senator representing this district. He's a Paramus native. Please help me welcome Joe Lagana.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate the introduction. As the mayor indicated early on, your commitment to Paramus has been steadfast in good times and as bad, and in good times and in bad. And you've done so much for this borough, more than people realize, that you've been here from the beginning and continue to be here for us each and every time. So I just want to thank you again for being a great partner with us. Congressman Godheimer. Congressman Godheimer, thank you for always being a good ally for us. We've been fighting congestion pricing for about 2 years now. Hopefully we get somewhere with it, but thank you for your tenacity on that issue. And also to all our members of the school board, members of the council, our county executive, Jim Tedesco, who's actually the governor of Bergen County. I'm not sure if anybody knows that, but he's been an amazing ally. Obviously, we're in Paramus, former mayor, and it's safe to say that this town runs deep in his veins. Mayor LaBarbiera, thank you again. I served as a councilman before I was in the legislature, and I got to learn a lot from the mayor, who did a tremendous job and who has always had Paramus in his best interest and leaving it in a good spot. So thank you, Mayor, for everything. I am here to talk today about this important initiative as not only as a legislator but as a parent. I have 3 daughters who attend public school here in Paramus. They don't go to Eastbrook, they go to Westbrook, so we're West Side. But we are a Paramus family, from 8th grade all the way down to preschool. And when I drop my kids off to school in the morning, I used to just drop them off and say bye and see you later. Now I drop them off and I look around and I see, who's parked out front. I see what doors are open. I see if there's police officers in the area. I see if there's anybody suspicious walking around. And it's unfortunate that these are the times that we live in right now. And what's happened over the past more than a decade in this country with the amount of gun violence that has increased and has created an unsafe atmosphere, at least a feeling of an unsafe atmosphere in many of our schools, is really terrible that we have to live in these times. What happens every so often will happen again. It's not a matter of if another school shooting will happen. It's a matter of when it will happen and where it will happen. It will happen. Somebody will get a gun who shouldn't have a gun. They'll walk into a school and they'll do the same thing that they've been doing. Now, what do we do to help combat that? There's a multitude of things that we can do. I think here in Paramus, you see that we do have armed security, which I strongly support. I think we have the finest police department in the state, Chief Ehrenberg, who is an amazing ally and partner, loves this town very much. He's done an amazing job as our chief. And they are on the ball when it comes to keeping our students safe. But police officers and other first responders also need the most up-to-date data when it comes to actually doing their job. We can have as much of a presence as we need, but if we have outdated maps, if we have outdated plans, if police officers don't know what they're walking into, it doesn't matter how many show up, it doesn't matter what tools they have, they're going to be at a disadvantage. So I think this is extremely important because we are providing essentially military-grade technology, employing it into our schools. I've seen the process, I've seen how they do it. I spoke to a former Army Ranger who walked me through the process of how they use this in the military, and it's really extraordinary. And I think it's going to give police officers really the gold standard in technology, and they'll be able to respond more efficiently, more effectively, and they themselves won't be walking into any kind of danger while at the same time protecting the people who they came to protect. So again, I want to thank the governor. I want to thank all people who came today to support us. I think this is critically important. I was very proud to sponsor the legislation in the state Senate that dealt with this exact issue, and I thank the governor immensely for funding this. So again, importantly, I think the message today is we are being proactive. We're not being reactive. And I think when it comes to school security, each and every day we have to think of ways to make our schools safer. We don't want them to look like courthouses, but there does need to be a certain level of security at our schools, and I think it's imperative that we move in that direction. So thank you again. I appreciate it, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. Great leadership, and for the folks who live in your district, you should know that this guy is among the very best. I have permission from her to say this, but Lori Duran is the director of the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. She is, before that, a multi-decade veteran of the CIA, which is how Lori and I first met when I was serving as the U.S. ambassador in Germany. And in this day and age, when you're dealing with the threats that we're dealing with, having somebody who's got multi-decades experience in the CIA is an incredible asset in our state. So please help me welcome Director Lori Duran.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. I greatly appreciate the invitation to be here. And though I am retired from the CIA, I am a real person. This is my real name, so I'll just say that right up front. There's many times in my past I did not use my real name, but this is honestly me. So first of all, as I said, I thank you for being here. And I also wanted to, first start up right now, I wanted to also give a thanks to my colleagues, Pat Callahan and to Matt Platkin, because together our offices work together seamlessly to try and help protect the state of New Jersey, along with our other federal, state, and local partners. So I wanted to give a shout out to them as well. Protecting students and teachers when they step into a school is a priority number one for the state of New Jersey. Traditionally, as the governor mentioned, most law enforcement officers, the first time they enter a school facility will likely be during an emergency. And that's why we work very hard when we're not having an emergency in those blue sky days to get to meet everybody and develop these partnerships. And I can say on behalf of Matt and for Pat, we work very hard in trying to know each other ahead of time so that if something bad happens, we all can work together and work very quickly. We can face further challenges when the school floor plans are outdated, inaccurate, or inaccessible to first responders. Additionally, school schematics are not all standardized, can reflect labeling that's tailored to a facility, and may not be compatible with available public safety software. When you don't have an accurate description and depiction of a building's interior or the location for the key critical infrastructure on site, it can significantly undermine an effort multi-jurisdictional response, and ultimately it can cost lives. As a response to these challenges, as the governor mentioned, OHSP and the New Jersey State Police commenced a joint rollout of the statewide mapping initiative in 2019. This initiative focused on creating a common operating picture, improving planning strategies, and simplifying a cohesive emergency response. Mapping technology is such a critical tool because it provides first responders with the basic visual understanding of a building, school, or location by placing a gridded overlay over overhead imagery. New Jersey has previously employed this technology for pre-planned mass gatherings, for the state's COVID-19 global pandemic response, and most notably during the law enforcement response to the domestic terrorist attack in New Jersey in December in Jersey City in 2019. The New Jersey Domestic Security Preparedness Task Force, which is based in my office, but is partnered with other members of the cabinet and other Homeland Security people within the state, identified this an innovative tool as the best practice for first responders, and in previous years had secured funding through the Homeland Security Grant Program to extend the resiliency to 66 schools. But with the $6.5 million that has been dedicated in funding, thanks to the governor and to the Congressman, thank you very much, the real work begins as we begin to deploy this digital mapping technology to all corners of the state, and specifically to New Jersey's more than 3,600 kindergarten through 12th grade schools. As the governor mentioned, by 2023-2024 school year, and throughout the initiative, which currently has a presence in all of New Jersey's 21 counties, we plan to conduct an audit identifying the remaining schools that require digital mapping, collaborate with county law enforcement to facilitate school district outreach, including a program overview, a technology briefing, and a multi-jurisdictional training and exercise program. And finally, to disseminate the digital map throughout the first responder domain and software systems to ensure the current graphics remain accessible. As mentioned by the governor, OHSP and the state police will lead the effort to facilitate the coordination, integration, and dissemination of digital maps to the first responder domains, as well as to the educational sector throughout coordination with the Attorney General's office and the mapping initiative. And finally, I just wanted to mention, as the governor's Homeland Security advisor, I'm just putting a shout out for our state. I talked to my colleagues in the other 49 states and territories. They look to us as the example. They look to us because we have shown that we have our act together, that we talk to each other. And I have had more than one state ask me, how do you do it, and can we copy what you do? So to me, that is the best way and the best compliment that we could get. And I owe a lot of that to our governor and to everyone here who is part of that community to help make us safe. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
Lori, thank you. A couple of quick comments before we move on to the most important person in our room, and that's the principal. I always do what the principal tells me to do. I could not agree more with Lori on both coordination within the state and with our federal partners. And Lori spoke, but I think you'd agree with me just as easily Matt or Pat could have spoken, or any one of the other distinguished members here, particularly from law enforcement and first responders. But we do have an unusually good relationship within our own teams, but also with our federal partners. And that does not happen by accident. We spend a lot of time working on making sure that we're physically in the same room several times a year. We are easily found by the others. And we have pretty frank discussions, not just in reaction to things that have happened, but prospectively. What are we not seeing that we should be anticipating? A more sober observation is, and we all know this, you can never pat yourself on the back. You have to bat 1,000. You literally have to bat 1,000 every single day. And so while I'm proud of all the mitigants, all the laws, executive orders, the teamwork, the talent, the technology, everything we're putting into this, just we all have to recognize the sobering reality that we wake up every day having to bat 1,000 just like we did the day before. And that is a burden of responsibility on every single one of us. I mentioned him already. You were the vice principal, I believe, in May of 18, Ryan. Please help me welcome another great leader, the principal, Ryan Opperly.
So I have my prepared statement, and I'm going to go just slightly off script because we opened schools for our teachers this week, and I've been thinking Friday, what's our theme for the year? And one of the things we say around Eastbrook all the time is better is better. You know, we're looking for progress. But I think I might change it to I always do what the principal says, and maybe get T-shirts made up and use that as our new slogan for this year. Thank you for that, Governor. So they asked me to speak kind of from the educator perspective, and I'll say I'm not just an educator, I'm a parent of 3 students who attend public schools in Bergen County. And as a parent and an educator, I appreciate these steps taken to ensure the safety of our schools. Safe learning environments are critical for the school community's investment in our educational system. From parents, guardians, caregivers knowing that their children are in a safe and healthy environment each day, to faculty and staff being able to focus on the academic, social, and emotional needs of their students and each other, to students themselves feeling comfortable at school to explore their own academic, social, and emotional growth. I'm going to take a pause there before I continue, because again, thank you to the governor for pointing out when we let our students focus on those things, the amazing things that they can produce. So I want to give a shout out to our amazing art teacher, Christy Dreer here. She's one of the best. Teachers like Christy help students unlock their potential, and what you see here is evidence of that. And so when we can take away that concern about safety, we allow students to focus on what really matters. So in Paramus, we are fortunate to have a positive and supportive relationship with the police department. The safety and security of our schools are the top priority, and our collaborative relationship with the Paramus Police Department is an important part of keeping our students and staff safe. It was mentioned about police coming into the building for the first time in an emergency, and that's just not the case here. And we're very fortunate for that. You know, different initiatives that have been put in place, lead, stop, park, and walk initiatives have been in place here for years. And it's something that helps our students know that they're safe here, that they can trust and count on our first responders. And that's something that we've known we can count on. This announcement today takes that a next step further. What the governor has announced today will provide an avenue for the open sharing of key information between schools and law enforcement that, in the extremely unfortunate event of an emergency situation at a school, will allow for the members of law enforcement to respond swiftly and efficiently. We know that a quick response time is of the utmost importance in emergency situations. Anything that will assist law enforcement in providing a quick response to school emergencies is a step forward. Thank you, Governor Murphy, for prioritizing the safety of our schools.
Ryan, really great leadership by you and your whole team of administrators and staff and educators and ESPs. I want to give them a shout out. So the T-shirt, should say, you can quote me, when I'm in a school, I do what the principal tells me to do. Just want to make sure I got that off my chest. Last but certainly not least, a guy who's so well known to this community. He's from it, former mayor. He's been part of first firefighters for 40-something years, Jim. Former commissioner, then freeholder. He knows utilities like the back of his hand. So he's got, to say that this is an abstract for Jim Tedesco is the understatement of the day, if not the week or year. He's an extraordinary leader. He's the county executive or the governor of Bergen County. Please help me welcome Jim Tedesco.
First, good morning. And let me say that I'm proud to be standing in Paramus, in Bergen County, the center of the universe, a place where there's no better place to raise a family, to have a business, and for me to call home for almost 70 years. I need to thank, on the right side here, all the folks from the Paramus Board of Education, all our educators from the school board and everything, the amazing work that you've done on managing the school district and making this one of the top school districts in the state of New Jersey and in the country. Thank you so much for that. So the Gov said that part of my background is I've been a firefighter for 46 years. And I share that as a chief here twice, but I share that also with the former chief and the chief, and now the chief of police here, Ken Ehrenberg. And the reason I say that is while we're talking about the mapping technology here today, and we're talking about mostly the response of law enforcement and how that's going to affect the law enforcement response, it also has other benefits. So should there be a fire here, should there be some kind of a building infrastructure issue, this mapping technology is also able to be used by our emergency responders for that type of an incident also. So while we talk about it from a standpoint of an active shooter, this technology has a broad expanse of ability. And I know that Chief Ehrenberg and our Sheriff, Anthony Curitin, and the Colonel understand that and know that, and that's why it's so important. I need to thank the Governor for his administration's effort on this behalf. Without this money, we would not be able to continue to grow and expand this, and I thank you so much. To Senator Lagana and the Congressman, thank you. Congressman, thank you for helping get the federal funding for this. Senator Lagana, thank you for fighting for this funding for the LD 38. I appreciate that, you and your colleagues. And finally, I need to thank our emergency responders. Here in Bergen County, our Office of Emergency Management, the Bergen County Sheriff's Office, and the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office for their unwavering commitment to the safety of our residents. Over the last 5 years, we have worked collaboratively to administer digital mapping of critical high-traffic areas, including schools, retail hubs, and hospitals. As a first responder, I understand how critical it is for the emergency response personnel to establish a common operating picture during a potential threat environment scenario. Having the data to know exactly where you are when time is of the essence allows our first responders to operate in the most swift and effective manner possible. I am proud that Bergen County has been ahead of the curve with Bergen County Technical and Special Service School District buildings, all 3 Bergen Community College campuses, all major county facilities, and nearly 30 additional Bergen County school districts have already been mapped. But now, thanks to Governor Murphy and his administration, the $6.5 million funding will allow even more Bergen districts to take advantage of this critical technology. further enhancing the safety of our children, our educators, and the public. So as someone that has been intimately involved in this, someone that, as the governor said, understands about infrastructure and about things, how critical and how important this technology is, you really don't understand. But standing here today, we're trying to help you understand it. Also, as I end, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that here in Bergen County, we will not be putting congestion pricing into effect. We can manage that here, and so that won't be necessary to address. So thank you.
Bergen County, according to the county executive, is a congestion fee-free zone. As they say in Hollywood, it's a wrap. So I want to again thank, beginning with Rich, who's been an extraordinary mayor here. We're way overdue for one of our dinners, so let's do that. To Josh, thank you for getting this money from Washington, and Joe for getting it from Trenton, and Lori for all you do, along with Matt and Pat, to keep us safe. Ryan, remember the T-shirt. And last but not least, Jim and his colleagues at the county level, to all the members of the board, superintendent and team, first responders, law enforcement, to each and every one of you, and most importantly, Angelica, to educators, to ESPs, and to our precious 1.4 million kids who will be back to school next week. By the way, I should have said this earlier, this technology will be rolled out to all public schools, charter schools, Renaissance schools, private schools, and religious schools as well. Thank you all.